here with all of you. As President Ferry said, my name is Emma Paulson, and I am a freshman at Concordia University of Wisconsin. Just a few short years ago, I couldn't have imagined being here at Concordia, studying to be a nurse, and speaking in front of all of you about my journey over the past 2.5 years. But frankly, nothing surprises me anymore. I have learned firsthand that when God is in charge, and He is always in charge, there are no consequences. Everything, no matter how big or small, has its purpose, and it's all good. Last week, for the first time, I ran the steps at Concordia, all 200 of them. No, I didn't break any records, and yes, I had to stop a couple times. But it felt good to make it to the top. A few short years ago, as a sophomore cross-country runner at Brookfield Academy, racing up 200 stairs would not have been much of an accomplishment. I had been a runner since 7th grade. I was pretty decent and enjoyed the challenge, especially being able to see my race times improve at every event. But sophomore season was different. Despite daily workouts and logging lots of miles, I noticed my race times were slipping, not improving. No matter how hard I pushed myself, I was becoming the slowest runner on my team. On my 16th birthday, I remember watching from the sidelines as my teammates raced in the sectional meet, and I didn't even qualify. Christmas came, and I became increasingly lethargic. Walking upstairs made me dizzy and out of breath. I lost my appetite and had an unusually big bruise on my arm. I recognize those as symptoms now, but at the time, I didn't think to complain to my parents. I didn't want to worry them. One night, we joked about how much paler I was than the rest of my family. But the morning of January 17th, 2012 was no joke. I remember how awful I felt that morning. I couldn't get going, and I could barely keep my head upright. I was so tired. Instead of heading off to school, my dad took me to my pediatrician's office in the midst of a terrible blizzard. Immediately after taking a blood test, I got dizzy, and within seconds, I passed out in a chair on my dad's shoulder. I was later told I was out for 10 minutes. My dad knew something was wrong just by the look on the nurses' faces. When I woke up, I was laying down in the exam room, and the doctor was talking to my dad. She had tears in her eyes, and I heard her say the word leukemia. I knew that sounded familiar, but I was too tired to recall what it meant. We were immediately sent to the Mac Fund Clinic at Children's Hospital, where my mom was waiting for us. And it was there that Dr. Tower gently broke the news that in fact I had cancer. That word I knew. On January 17th, 2012, after several tests, it was determined that my official diagnosis was very high risk acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which has a 50 to 70% cure rate. I was admitted to the hot unit at Children's Hospital immediately. Over the next 10 days in the hospital, I received 24 hours of blood and platelet transfusions, a spinal tap, a bone marrow biopsy, a PICC line placement, an echocardiogram, and the first of hundreds of chemo treatments. The doctors wasted no time. I also received my first beads of courage. Patients receive beads to signify every poke, surgery, spinal tap, chemo, night at the hospital, transfusions, their milestones, and their setbacks. My hospital room was a hub of activity with constant visits from doctors, nurses, social workers, family, friends, and child life specialists, and later even a psychiatrist to help with anxiety. Occasionally, I was able to walk the floor while tethered to my IV pole just to get out of bed for a while. When I did, I noticed many young fighters who had many more beads than I did. I hoped that if they could be that brave, so could I. They inspired me then, they inspire me now, and they will always inspire me. Throughout my time in the hospital, I had always had one of my parents staying with me, and I was blessed to have lots of visitors. Family and friends visited throughout the day to bring me food, activities, or just to stay and talk for a while to distract me from the scary reality. Strangers like the man and his son who brought a Build-A-Bear machine, and a group of girls from a salon who came in to do manicures to the patients, and even the Valparaiso University basketball team. All of this helped to pass the time and brighten my days. I learned of other kids who were inpatient for much longer periods of time, many of them alone because their parents couldn't afford to take that much time off of work. I knew then that I needed to help my fellow patients. I didn't know what, or when, or how, but I knew I would somehow find a way. The first of many treatments were difficult. I was unable to attend school or see my friends, and I rarely left my bedroom. The chemo had made me sicker than I had ever been in my life. I was bald, puffy-faced, and there was rarely a day that went by where I wasn't throwing up. I lost 20 pounds. I used to complain about my thick, curly hair, but now it was all gone. One of my chemo drugs robbed me of the ability to run and even walk well. I needed leg braces and weekly physical therapy in order to walk by myself. I had to relearn to walk and was finally able to run a mile on the treadmill a month ago, and now I've conquered the Concordia steps. I had a couple of scares which landed me into the ER. Meanwhile, day by day, my string of beads were steadily growing into a beautiful representation of my journey. Look at these beautiful strand of beads. It represents that over the past 32 months, I have had over 40 bags of blood and platelets, over 30 spinal taps, 4 surgeries, 2 bone marrow biopsies, countless chemo transfusions, over 3,000 pills, over 50 physical therapy treatments, 30 nights in the hospital, 3 trips to the emergency room, 2 echocardiograms, an MRI of my brain, and I lost all my hair twice. I am not sharing this story with you to complain or to seek sympathy or to make you sad. Actually, it is quite the opposite. It is simply to tell you a story, my story. I want it to be a story of seeing the good and bad things, turning difficult circumstances into something positive, and how suffering and hardship, big or small, can have a higher purpose. I keep this strand of beads around my bedpost, so needless to say, I have had many, many hours just to stare and think. Each bead is beautiful in its own way, but the true beauty I see is that each bead represents something that I've accomplished, a challenge I've overcame. Some people might look at this as a symbol of pain and sadness, and chemo and sickness, but this string of beads represents to me that I am a stronger and more confident person. If someone had shown me this string of beads on January 17th, 2012, I would have shuddered in fear. There's no way I can do this. But looking at it today, these beads make me realize that each treatment, each accomplishment, each challenge overcame, one on top of the other, day after day, made me a stronger person. It may sound odd, but cancer has been such a blessing to me in so many ways. It's funny how God works that way. He can bring great good out of such adversity. I'm continually amazed at how much these experiences have shaped me into who I am today. I see the opportunities I have had because of cancer, which I wouldn't have had otherwise. I have been invited to special events, received gifts, took a Make-A-Wish trip to Hawaii, and even got to meet some cool celebrities. I've met some of the kindest, most amazing people from all over the country. 3 weeks ago, I was on the 50-yard line at Lambeau Field just before kickoff, and tonight I'm here with all of you. A few blessings in particular stand out to me. First, 2 years ago this November, I started a foundation. I was motivated by my experiences during my first days at the hospital and inspired by fellow fighters at my hospital. I run the foundation from my Facebook page called Emma Rose, A Patient Helping Patients, and I now have over 8,000 followers. I collect comfort items for my fellow fighters at Children's Hospital. Every month when I go in for my clinic visits, I bring about 60 gift bags for the patients, which include fuzzy socks, lip balms, hand sanitizers, candy and snacks, and small activities to help them pass the time. I plan to continue to run this foundation indefinitely. It is my passion. I love those little kids, some so little in fact, they have no life without cancer. Second, my cancer journey inspired my future career choice. If you had asked me a week before my diagnosis if I ever wanted to be a nurse, without hesitation I would have said no. Now, without a doubt, I know I want to be a pediatric oncology nurse. My goal is to work exactly where I'm treated now, in the Macphone Center Children's Hospital, and to work alongside the nurses that inspired me and saved my life. I cannot possibly imagine having any other career. I want to dedicate my life to helping children who are suffering from this horrible disease and finding a cure so that no child will ever have to go through what I had to. Finally, I am here at Concordia, which is a perfect fit for me in so many ways. Concordia offers everything I need to be a successful nurse someday. The smaller class sizes, dedicated teachers, and close ties with Children's Hospital are why I chose Concordia. Most importantly, Concordia recognizes that faith, charity, and service should be at the heart of everything we do. This is especially true for caregivers, who provide care to those most in need. Being able to attend a university that supports my faith is exactly where I belong. My faith, knowing that God has a plan for me, was essential throughout my journey. It carried me and brought me joy in the face of suffering, knowing that God was in charge. My wish for everyone is that whenever suffering comes along, big or small, the next time something unexpected or bad comes up in your life, look for the good in it, embrace it, and don't worry, because God is in control. It might take some extra courage, for as St. Paul wrote, we walk by faith, not by sight. But turn that bad thing, whatever it is, into one of these beautiful beads, then another, and then another. And before long, you will put together your own string of beads and accomplishments that will strengthen you and inspire others. Thank you all for the honor of being here tonight. I am humbled to share my story with you and be a student here at Concordia University. Thank you and have a good night.